Welcome to the Rad Sports Show, where the takes are hot, the vibes are right, and sports talk is always unfiltered.
Righteous.
With your hosts, Rick Horn. Yeah, that's right, the man with the golden voice.
And I thought insurance salesmen were pushy.
And Danny Gilmore.
Sounds like some Lord of the Ring creature.
That's barbaric.
So sit back, crack open a drink, and let's talk some sports.
Friday, May 15th, 2026, the Rad Sports Show live for the very first time. We are so stoked. Thank you for being here with us. We are your somewhat capable hosts this evening, Rick Horn and Danny Gilmore.
Woo!
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Rick, we're finally doing it, buddy.
We're finally doing it. Hey, listen, some of you may already know us from a show that we did a couple of years ago. Others of you are here for the very first time, thanks to some advertising that we did on Facebook. But you know what? There are really an endless number of ways that you could have ended up here with us tonight, and we're glad that you're here to talk sports with us. Our hope is that this can be a place for you to just kind of come and wind a little bit at the end of the week. Feel like you're hanging out with your buddies, talking sports and escaping reality, right? A lot of you have jobs or family stuff or really any number of things going on throughout the week that really don't give you much of a chance to do that. So we hope that this can be that place for you. So, Danny, how you doing this week, buddy? Anything exciting happen?
I'm good, buddy. Yeah, this whole setup was pretty exciting. Took us all the way down to the wire. We had about 30 seconds before we went live, before we could figure out this, getting my mic working. I guess, I don't know, Rick, you're saying it was on your side, but it's always on mine when we've done this in the past.
It would be that way, you know, with any show, technical difficulties, especially on the first one. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
But we're here.
So it's pretty exciting. We really got it photo finish.
Yeah, we finally got it, man. I'm excited. No, it's been this has been actually several months in the making. You know, we just moved from Florida up to Maryland. You know, so I had to get the house and everything set up and whatnot.
He did. I didn't.
I did. Right. Not this guy. Not this guy. But no, listen, we've got a great show lined up for you tonight. And I think to kick things off, what we can do is we can take a very short little 1-minute stroll down memory lane and take a look at some pretty killer stuff that happened this week in sports history.
It's time for This Week in Rad. Totally Rad Sports History. May 11th, 1992. The Portland Trail Blazers and Phoenix Suns combined for an NBA playoff record-setting 304 points in a historic double overtime game. Final score, 153-151 Trailblazers. May 13th, 1983. The New York Islanders defeated the Edmonton Oilers 4-2 to win their fourth consecutive Stanley Cup. May 16th, 1975. Boxing legend Muhammad Ali TKO's Ron Lyle in 11 rounds to retain his heavyweight title. And May 17th, 1970, Atlanta Braves right fielder Hank Aaron records his 3,000th career hit, becoming the 9th player in Major League history to reach that milestone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So some pretty cool facts for you this week in sports history. Those are all things that happened this week in sports. Yeah, I just thought that'd be a nice little thing to throw in there, give you guys a little bit of sports talk, right? A little bit of sports history action coming at you. But yeah.
I'll be honest. I'm scared to touch my mic at this point because I know, like, there's been, I just got this new mic. I'm using it for the first time, and the other mic I had, if you just it's the old like Motorola cable. So if you just touch it, nudge it wrong a little bit, and it stops working. You have to find that little nice. It's like remember like your old cell phones, how you just had to, like when you went to charge it at night, you had to put it like just right, like to get in there for it to work. That's how the microphone was. So this one's new, and right when we tried it out, it just wasn't working. So I'm trying, like I got a different chair I'm in, trying to like be able to relax and move this around, but now I'm just like scared to move anything. So.
Hey, listen, real quick shout out to Thing256. He actually stopped in before the stream. He said he wanted to stop by early and wish us a great episode. So thank you, Thing5265. We appreciate that. Always glad to have anybody. This is obviously our first night on this show, but we've done shows in the past, and we're obviously super thankful for that. So yeah, do us a favor, guys. If you like this show, if you could, make sure that you like and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get notifications anytime we go live, or upload any other short form content here to the channel. If you could,
That's right. And if we get 100 likes, Rick will go woo for 20 minutes straight on the next episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, if we had 100 likes, just at random points throughout the next episode. So
nope, just straight nonstop.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, what do we think? Let's jump into our first topic for the evening. And tonight we're going to be talking about the NFL draft. Obviously, we're starting the show a little bit late, right? You know, so if we had started the show earlier and had a little bit more time, we would have obviously gone division by division. But, you know, with it being a little bit later in the game, I think that's fine. I think what we can do here is kind of provide some of our quick thoughts on the NFL draft and react to some of that. So with that, let's kick off our first segment of the night.
With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft.
I want my picks back, all of them.
You blew it!
It's the Rad Sports Show NFL Draft Quick Reactions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, all right, all right.
All right, Danny. So what do we think? I think that we should go through and really just go. We'll give, if we have the same teams, that's fine. But let's go two best team drafts in the NFL, and we'll go two worst drafts.
Sure.
Sure. You want to go first? Or you want me to go?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
I think the pretty easy one, I was thinking just like right down the middle, was the Raiders. I mean, I know that's kind of a cheap, you know, kind of sorry, because they got the first overall pick, but I mean, I don't know. I just look in terms of, you know, you got your quarterback, and this is also kind of building off of last year, getting the running back too. So I think that works pretty good. And then right after you get Mendoza, you just kind of go down the line, just players that aren't really, I wouldn't say flashy in terms of like, you know, the ones you see on your fantasy football league. It's like the responsible picks. I think that's what makes the most sense for me, like in drafts. And drafting is kind of one of those things where no one really knows how good or bad these drafts are until like 3 years down the road. And by that time, we're already talking about the, like, whatever the current year's draft. We already forgot about, you know, whoever all those picks were back then. It just doesn't, you know, it's old news by then.
Yeah.
So, but to get the first one overall pick, it's Mendoza's the guy that, you know, we're all, you know, pretty sure he is the guy. I mean, as sure as you can be, because I know quarterbacks can be such a crapshoot. But I'm just, I don't know. I think in terms of, you know, safe picks, I feel like I'm going with Oakland. Sorry, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Shows you how old I'm feeling.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the Las Vegas. So obviously, there was no doubt, obviously, Fernando Mendoza was going to be the number one overall draft pick.
Right.
They didn't do, I'm surprised with the Raiders. They didn't really add much in the passing game. And I know you've got, obviously, Brock Bowers there, right, and Ashton Genty. They really didn't do a whole lot on the offensive side of the ball in the draft, other than they picked up Mike Washington out of Arkansas with their second, fourth round pick. So I mean, he'll be, I guess, a decent backup for Ashton Genty. He's a bigger player. He's a thumper, 6'1", 223 pounds. You know, so that'll be a good backup for Ashton Genty. And then the only other really move that they made on offense in the draft was they picked up Malik Benson with their 6th round pick out of Oregon. Who I know at one point Malik Benson was the number 1 overall JUCO prospect.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, he had, just looking at his prospect profile here on the NFL website. He looks like he'll be a decent depth piece. He projects to be an above average backup. So, you know, not a ton of moves on the offense. They did definitely attack their defense, and obviously you get the quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. Right.
And they got their guard. And, I feel like draft isn't also the end-all be-all of what the team's going to look like when you put together. It's sometimes just whatever you have available.
Right.
But I just like, I got my cheat sheet right here. I'm looking down right there, and they got, their second, fourth round pick. They got another, like a backup running back. And
Yeah.
I just feel like they're going down the line. They're shooting for more responsibility. And then, and you're right. I could see, you look at guys like Buka Nakua, who he was a fifth round draft pick, and he turned into someone big. So obviously anybody can be, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, and he's ended up being a star. So I'm not saying none of these guys aren't going to be anything, but I just think, going down, I'm just looking down the line with safety, defensive end, guard, and I think having good O-line is always going to make, those wide receivers, your running back and your quarterback all better. So I don't know. Just besides Mendoza was the obvious thing, but then next down the line, it just seemed like they're kind of being responsible. And they got Genty too from last year. So a combination of those, I think they're going to look pretty good. So
No, fair enough.
enough about that. What do you got?
Yeah. So for me, who I thought had the best overall team draft for this year, I thought was the Cleveland Browns.
That was going to be my pick. Next pick. Well done. All right.
For me, the Browns, they addressed pretty much everything except the quarterback position. Although I want to say they did draft a quarterback in the sixth round that was more a runner than anything. I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah.
They've pretty much addressed everything and got excellent value. I love that they were able to trade back from their number 6 spot down to 9 to pick up Spencer Fano out of Utah, who is arguably the singular most athletic of all the offensive tackles in the draft. And then they immediately upgraded their pass catching core with, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this name, but Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M, and then as well as Denzel Boston out of Washington. Casey Concepcion's he's a crazy fast route runner, and then you have Boston, who's kind of more of a big body presence. I also like that they addressed their O-line this offseason. They traded for Titus Howard from the Texans. They signed Elkton Jenkins from the Packers, and then followed it up by adding depth with taking Austin Hopper out of Florida with their third round pick, who has a ton of starting experience. So I think that the Browns certainly do have pieces on their offense. I think between those two receivers that they drafted, right, Harold Fannin at tight end, they have a pretty good 1-2 punch at running back if Quinshawn Judkins can get healthy, come back from that injury. Between him and Dylan Sampson, I think they'll have a pretty good 1-2 punch at running back. It's just obviously in this class, to be honest with you, was not a strong quarterback class at all. 2027 is a loaded draft at pretty much every position. So,
well, hold on. They said that about this year, like a year ago, because they were thinking like Archie Manning and a few other guys were gonna what's the word where they make themselves available? There's a word for that.
Yeah.
What's that
declaring
called?
for the draft?
Declare. Yeah, they declare.
I declare.
I declare. Yeah.
That would be my first one.
Excuse me.
You're good. But yeah, no, I thought that the Browns had an excellent draft. And then my second team would be the New York Giants.
Yeah, me too, man.
No, I just thought they did awesome. And so you go ahead.
No, well, it's fine. Yeah, it's they got. It's kind of funny because they had one of the worst records of the year, but they got there with like the best flashy pieces. I feel like they got the really, I call them like the fantasy football players, where they're just the ones that you're going to get a jersey of. Not a lot of people are going to get a jersey of, the right guard. I don't know. Maybe there's a couple of people that will, but some of those super, super important pieces are going to make everyone great. They're important ones that, so they got Neighbors, they got Scattaboo, they got Dart, they got all their flashy pieces. Now it's like they can kind of just work on, the vegetables, I guess. I don't mean, but I mean you got the the steak and the sweets and everything. Now you got the I don't know what I'm talking about. You got they're getting the boring pieces that are super important.
Right.
And I think that got that really good. And then I forget who's the tackle that they draft. They got like really high up there.
The
first round,
Giants?
Francisco. The Francis Moengoyo. I can't say his name.
Francis
Yeah.
Maligoa.
Yeah, and then he goes on the stage like, "Darn, I'll die for you. I'll put my life in front. I'll freaking die for you." I was like, "Dude, I love it, man." So, that was pretty exciting.
They did a badass job at really their draft. They just stacked up on like the top rated guys. Respective. Like you look at their number 5 pick, Arvell Reese, absolute freaking beast out of Ohio State. He really he's dynamic and athletic enough. You can play him at Mike linebacker or put him out on the edge and have him rush from the edge. Just crazy athletic. I think he was one of, if not the singular top rated defensive player in the draft. I could be wrong about that, but I know he was pretty damn high up there.
Yeah.
So
let's see, they had. I'm trying to go back. They had like multiple first. They had 2 first round picks.
Yeah. So
I think they used them great.
Yeah. So they picked him with number 5, and then at number 10, you hit the nail right on the head with Francis Maligoa, I believe his name is, out of Miami.
Yeah. Why don't you butcher it too? Let's do this together.
And he was the top rated tackle in the draft. He was awesome, right? And then they follow it up with another like top, player at their respective position. They got an absolute bully in press coverage with their 2nd round pick of Clayton Hood out of Tennessee. He was rated the number 4 cornerback in the draft. So I felt like they knocked it out of the park, and they got a good receiver, Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. Obviously, with Malik Neighbors having tore his ACL last year, we don't know what he's going to look like whenever he does come back. But assuming he comes back, even if it's not immediately, assuming he comes back at least close to the form that we saw, his rookie and early in his sophomore year, Malachi Fields should pair up with him very nicely. They've got weapons there in New York. It's going to be interesting seeing Harbaugh there. It's going to be weird seeing him not on the Baltimore sideline and being up there.
I know.
In the Big Apple that's actually in New Jersey, but they're claiming New York. But
and there's a segment I wanted to do with you, and I think we could maybe do it a week or 2 from now. And I'll just tell you, just let everyone know what we're talking about doing. We wanted to pick maybe 2 teams that nobody sees coming that are going to be great this year, and then 2 teams that everyone assumes is going to be great that are actually going to suck. And because last year we had the Colts, nobody, Danny Dimes, no one thought he was going to be good going over there. He was just a placeholder, and they ended up being great until they weren't, obviously. And then teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs just all of a sudden just sucked ass for no reason. I was going to say, I don't think the Giants fit in that category, because even though they were so bad last year, wins wise, everyone's expecting them to be a playoff team next year. Everyone says they're going to be great. There's going to be, if they end up getting 12 wins next year, no one's going to be surprised.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean? So I think if you're a Giants fan, it's okay to have hope.
Sure,
right now.
No,
so
absolutely.
It's time to be excited.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes that NFC East a lot more interesting, because you had Washington, who for a while, were kind of bottom dwellers, but they've been legit. I mean, hell, they made it to the NFC Championship in Jaden Daniels' rookie year, right? So now I think that will be a lot more overall competitive division than it has been in years past. Obviously, you still have Philly there. Dallas, they picked really well on the defensive side of the ball this year.
Yeah, I think
it's kind of been their Achilles heel. As much as I hate Dallas, and I'm happy to rag on them all day long, but they've always, or at least for the past several years, they've had a good offense. Their defense has been just atrocious, But now they addressed a lot of that in the draft, so I think that this is going to be an interesting division.
Yeah, I know how much you hate Dallas, but I just they were. I think they were top, the third. I mean, whatever article I was reading, they had them ranked as like the third worst defense, and they just went like whole hog on defensive picks. And so I don't. If they have an average defense, I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be. It's going to be them or New York. Like I think Philly's taking a step back. I don't think Washington has their shit together quite yet. I mean, it's like their best wide receiver, like Lauren was. He's in his 30s now, which I didn't realize. I mean, it's just not
right.
It's just a young quarterback with a lot of holes in their game. But anyway,
right.
Well,
we want to hear from you, the listener. Which team do you think had the best and the worst NFL draft? Submit your comments in the comments section. Now we'll read them here on the show. Get your thoughts. Let us know. What do you think? Who had the best and worst NFL draft? Comment now. Let's move on really quick before we move on to this next segment. We talked about the best NFL drafts. Who do you think, rapid fire, which two teams had the worst draft and why?
I only got one on here.
Okay.
We're trying to get two, and I got a feeling it's going to be the same one you have. Arizona. Was that one of your two? Really?
No,
that wasn't one of your two.
They were almost one of mine.
No, I'm really curious now.
First, let's get your thoughts on Arizona.
Okay, just like I was talking about like before with getting like trying to establish your like. I feel like you need to like establish the trenches first, and maybe like whether that's like on the defense or especially on offense. And I feel like they had so many pieces missing. They went and got the Ferrari. It's like it's kind of one of those things. Like if you're struggling at home, you have you're living in a 1-bedroom apartment and you're just barely getting rent. And then, but you got a promotion, and the only first thing you get is a Ferrari, and that's all your budget is going to right now. And you probably can't afford the insurance for it, and so that's obviously them getting. And then they got with the running back, and then they got oh god, who is the quarterback that they got?
Carson Beck.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it's third round, but. Just looking at their situation, he's a third round guy, and don't you think he's probably going to like most likely start? I don't.
So right now they have Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback. And they're I don't know. I know for a while like there was a lot of back and forth with the Cardinals as far as his contract situation goes. He wants to be paid as a starter. And then Adam says Arizona had worst draft and Kansas City had the best. Adam is a very close friend of mine. And
nice. Is that our Adam? Like from our league?
No, not that. This guy's actually he's my neighbor. So
nice. Like your neighbor right now?
Yeah, like my neighbor right now.
Oh, dude, that's sweet. I didn't know your neighbor's like moving next to a neighbor. That's sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so he's actually a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, so of course the Chiefs had the best draft. I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't really looked too much at the Kansas City. But no, there is a point that I want to talk about as far as the Cardinals go, but real quick, I'm just going to rapid fire. My two worst teams were the Jacksonville Jaguars and the LA Rams. With the Jags...
Oh, we got to talk about the Rams.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to rapid fire this real quick. So for the Jags, they really didn't do anything to address anything. Like they just picked a bunch of depth piece rotational guys. Their first pick, which they didn't have, until they had a second round pick, which they can thank that for that trade that landed them Travis Hunter last year. But with their first pick in the second round, they picked an average at best blocking tight end. Like right now, what kind of really makes me mad about that as the Jags are kind of like my second team, right? Having lived down in Jacksonville for a number of years, but for the Jaguars, it really feels like Trevor Lawrence is starting to hit his stride. With Liam Cohen there, they looked. It took a little while, but I think especially that second half of the year, the Jaguars are really hitting their stride. And I was so sad whenever they lost to the Bills in the playoffs, but I really felt like this draft felt like a missed opportunity to capitalize on that. Although the one thing I will give them credit for the Jags, the one pick of theirs that I did like, the player that can be an immediate contributor, was that guard, Emmanuel Pregnant. Pregnant. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Out of Oregon, he was the second best rated guard in the draft. Very durable and experienced. He should immediately, and very good at run blocking. I think he was graded one of, if not the best run blocking offensive lineman in the draft. So that was the one thing that saved face for them. Beyond that, I think that they really didn't address. They just picked a bunch of part-time players. So
yeah, I don't know. And then maybe I was reading a biased article about I can't pronounce his name, but yeah, the tight end, the Nate Bork-Kirch or whatever. But I don't know. What I was reading about him is that they're making it sound like they think he's a generational tight end. And I don't know. Like, honestly, like, I didn't watch any like Texas A&M games. I didn't really, so I don't really have anything to go off of on that. But I don't know. It's like, you're just adding, like, I don't really know. Like I said, a lot of these guys are what exactly Jacksonville needed. I know they kind of surprised me as being a better team than I was expecting them to be last year.
Oh yeah, no, they were really good. Like they really needed a lot of help on defense. Especially on the like their front seven. I think needed a lot of help. They did need a little bit of help on the O line, which I think they addressed that with that guard out of Oregon that they took.
Yeah,
but they did little to nothing to address their front seven.
Yeah.
So,
and my theory is, especially with getting running backs in the first round, I feel like, I don't know, like I feel like unless you got like someone just a huge bruiser that just likes violence, like or Derrick Henry or like Marshawn Lynch, which they just kind of, and it's almost like that's not the way you're supposed to be a running back, not just supposed to mow people over. But those guys do, and so it's like they can kind of thrive regardless of the O-line. I feel like if you have a great O-line, then you can put any bum behind the line and just run in a straight line through the hole, and then you'll be all right. I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to do. I can't do it, obviously, but I just think it's, you're kind of wasting picks,
certainly
running back that high. But anyway, hey, let's talk about the Rams, though, because I think we might disagree on this.
So for the Rams, really for me, and I guess this kind of ties into the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to our next topic.
Yeah.
But it was more, I was surprised with what they did and what they didn't do. The thing that I was most surprised that they didn't do was at their number 13 pick, Mekhi Lemon was still on the board out of USC. They are in a win now mode. They are built to win like right now. Devontae Adams still has another good year, maybe a couple of years left. Matt Stafford, same thing. They've got Puka Nacua. They're built. If they would have taken another receiver, like I feel like it would have been, as a Seahawks fan, I'd have been terrified for them. But instead, they took Ty Simpson with their number 13 pick, who I'm not convinced they couldn't have easily gotten in the second round. But instead, they take him with their number 13 pick instead of taking Mekhi Lemon. Just think about it. With Mekhi Lemon, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and Matt Stafford, tell me that would not have been an absolutely terrifying aerial attack.
Oh, I know. I think, yeah, correct. But the way I look at it right now is that the pieces are getting better, like regardless of like the draft. And like I said, they get like a defensive player like later in the first round. But if you have a guy, and regardless of what the rumors are saying, I think it's a quarterback McVay wanted. I think he really wanted him, and it sounds like they did have kind of a secret meeting that they didn't want anyone else to know that they're interested in him, because if other people sniff out McVay wanted him, because this can translate and make this team a dynasty, not just a win now. But because even if they drafted no one, I feel like they'd still be a contender to win it all right now. So
yeah.
I feel like, this was like, they're not going to get a draft pick this high. That's the quarterback they want. And this is the opportunity to bring him in, set him under Stafford for a while, which I think you should do that with every rookie quarterback. They should sit for like 2 years at least, and then set him up.
Yep.
So that's where I'm going.
Yep, and Keith says, honestly, the 49ers had a terrible draft, traded out of the first round, and did nothing significant to even improve their team or depth, which they clearly needed because they cannot stay healthy. No, that's 100% true. And I don't know what that is. Like, they have had just their entire roster has been riddled by the injury bug, and it was ironic last year that, I think kind of the heel of a lot of jokes, especially for fantasy football players, Christian McCaffrey, who is famous for not being able to stay healthy for one reason or the other, was like their healthiest player last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And then starting the season with like some like ligament issue that they didn't really get into specifics, but it was just such a what the fuck is going on with it? Like right before the season started, I was sending memes to my buddy who drafted him in my other league, like, haha, you suck. And then he was healthy all year. So
yeah,
go figure.
All right, so to wrap this segment up, the most surprising picks, I already talked about it a little bit, and I think you kind of touched on some as well. For me, most surprising picks were Ty Simpson to the Rams, Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals. They just paid Tyler Algier in Atlanta, his rookie year, broke their franchise rookie record, and then they end up drafting Bijan Robinson, which is crazy. And then my other one was Caden Proctor to the Dolphins. They also could have had, at their number 12 pick, they could have also had Mekhi Lemon before the Rams would have even had it. This is why I thought the Rams for sure were going to get Mekhi Lemon, because the Dolphins didn't. But now Miami's de facto number one is Jalen Tolbert.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like Miami's trying to pull like a New York and a Las Vegas. Like, okay, we need one more year of like really, really sucking ass to get that quarterback next year. We don't want to draft ourselves out of next year's draft. So anywho, but that's
sure.
Wrapping up the old news here. Let's get right. All right, now let's get back to present day sports.
Yeah. All
I
right,
got some Babe Ruth stats I want to talk about first, but
yeah, absolutely. Hey, and let us know in the comments section below who were you most surprised about draft spot wise? Let us know below. And in the meantime, let's get into some Stanley Cup playoffs.
Get ready for Stanley Cup carnage.
Is that goal regulation size or what?
Where legends are made and fan bases implode. It's the Rad Sports Show Stanley Cup Playoff Review.
God, is that Happy Gilmore again?
No comment. No comment. No comment. But yeah, so the hey, what can I say? I'm a big fan of the movie. Now, the NHL playoffs. So the Western Conference Final is set after just last night. The Vegas Knights took the series against the Anaheim Ducks in Game 6, final score of 5-1. And what's crazy to me, so this is the Vegas Knights have only been in the league for 9 years, and this is already their 5th conference finals appearance. That's just nuts to me. I mean, gotta respect Vegas. They've been really, since they've been in the league, they've been an absolute force right out the gate. From the time that they became an expansion team. I'll be honest, that last series, even though I kind of have a rule of never rooting for California sports teams, I just don't like California teams. I got to say, I was kind of rooting for the Ducks simply because I love the fact that they went back to somewhat of their old, like their original kind of retro branding, rather than just that weird letter D that also kind of looks like a duck foot. Like it looks like the old Mighty Ducks logo, like back in the day.
Yeah, and that's what they got it off, is from the Mighty Ducks.
Right. No, exactly. So I was excited for that. I'm not sure that I love their new color scheme as much. But anyway, neither here nor there. Neither of them are my team. The Vegas Knights are set to take on the Colorado Avalanche in the Western Conference Final. Colorado, to be honest with you, has been by far the best team in hockey this year, right? They are the top scoring team by a pretty comfortable margin. They also have the least goals allowed in the league. They also have the highest positive differential between goals scored and goals allowed. So they've been next to impossible to beat. They just ran through the playoffs up until this point, And by the time that they take on Vegas, they will have had a full week to rest before their first game against them. So I do think that series should be more interesting than because they played Minnesota in the last round, and then just before that they played the LA Kings. So and Minnesota, the biggest meme that I see about Minnesota fans, don't hate me here, but I keep seeing them being called the Minnesota Mild. So, yeah, but no, I mean, and Colorado's another team that I have a strong loathe for. If you can't tell, I know it's a little bit dark in the room here, but I'm a big St. Louis sports fan. You can tell I've got my old school St. Louis Ram stuff, St. Louis Battlehawks stuff. So as a St. Louis native, I have never liked the Colorado Avalanche simply because of one man by the name of Stan Kroenke, who moved the Rams out of St. Louis to LA, and he also owns the Colorado Avalanche. So there you have it.
Well, fuck that guy then.
Yeah. Right. And on the Eastern Conference side, you've got the Carolina Hurricanes right now. They swept both Ottawa and Philly in the first two rounds, and now they're waiting to see who they will play between the Buffalo Sabres and Montreal Canadiens. The Canadiens currently lead the series 3-2. So obviously Montreal can book their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals with a win at home in Montreal tomorrow. Interesting thing I kind of read up on today, Montreal's top line had not scored a goal at 5-on-5 at any point this entire playoffs until, and I'm sure I'm butchering this name, Cole Caulfield. He scored a goal a little over midway through the first period last night. So that was kind of interesting. Their top line, like their starters, if you will, for you non-hockey folks out there, like their first people out there on the ice, hadn't scored a goal with every team at full strength up until last night as far as the playoffs go. And I think really, scorecard aside, I think Montreal has looked like the better team overall in the series. The first game of the series was really the only game that I felt like Buffalo looked a little bit more ready to compete, but ever since then, it looked like Montreal's kind of had a fire lit under them. And to be honest with you, regardless, I think of whoever Carolina plays, it's going to be a bigger challenge for Carolina than what they had to deal with both Ottawa and Philly. Ottawa was a wild card team. Philly, I believe, was the number 3 seed. They were not nearly as high anyway as Carolina was. So I think that either Montreal or Buffalo will be a better challenge for Carolina. That being said, I'm kind of rooting for Buffalo to win this series. And again, I'm going to sound like a butthole here, but I would love it if there's no more Canadian teams in the playoffs.
See, it's kind of funny because sometimes, the last couple of years, like, oh, maybe it'd be kind of fun if Canada won for a while. But I don't know. After the Olympics, I'm like, you know what? Screw you, Canada. This is our sport now. So.
And talking on that series that's going on right now, Keith says, as far as the Minnesota Mild goes, Minnesota sports doing what Minnesota sports do and choke in the playoffs. Man,
so
Keith
Rick,
is throwing some serious shade at Minnesota sports fans tonight. I love it.
So Rick, who do you just as the bigger hockey fan between the two of us here, who are you rooting for to win the whole thing right now? Because it sounds like I could tell you're you kind of like Buffalo, but you mentioned them for the series. You talked about Anaheim, that series. What's the team that you're like, with all the teams left, this is the horse I'm rooting for?
Rooting for?
Yeah. Not the one you think is going to win. The one that you're like, okay, you know what? Let's go this team.
That's a great question. Let me look something up real quick. But I would say between the teams that are in there right now, I would probably go Carolina just because it's been since I think the 2005 season since they won a cup. When was the last time?
I was gonna say, when was the last time Buffalo did?
That's a good. Let's look it up.
I was just kind of rooting for Buffalo. I mean, if I had to pick one, just whatever.
I will say, if nothing else, I love Buffalo sports. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. I'll go with Buffalo. They've not won a Stanley Cup. The last time
let's root for Buffalo. Yeah.
And in fact, the last time that they won a conference championship was all the way back in the 1998 to 1999 season.
Jeez. Okay, so the Rad Sports Show is officially rooting for Buffalo to win the Stanley Cup.
Absolutely. Now, who do I think will win?
Yeah.
I think out of the West, it's going to be Colorado. I think that just they're, like I talked about before, they're brutal. They are just absolutely brutal. Out of the East, I think it's going to be Carolina.
But to win the whole, who do you think is going to win? Not who you're rooting for. Buffalo's our team. Who's the team that you think is going to win the whole thing?
I hate to say it, but it's probably Colorado. They're insane right now. No, I do think that of the teams left, I think that Vegas really would probably be their biggest challenge. Regardless of any of the teams out of the East, I think that Vegas is a stronger challenge for them than any of the teams. So really, I guess in a way you could almost call that, I don't want to say that, that would almost be the Stanley Cup right there, is the Western Conference final. But I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
Well, I was gonna say I don't really follow hockey as much as you do. I like the Kraken's like my team. I probably watched about maybe 5 games a year, honestly. And but every time I check the standings, I just go down, just scroll down, Vegas is up again. So just the short, and kind of surprised it's already been 9 years. It just shows how fast I'm getting old. 'Cause I thought it was 5 years, but I think the Kraken's been around for 5 years at this point. So yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like Vegas is always good, so I assume they're going to go in. But we both agree that we're rooting for Buffalo, so go Sabres.
Go Sabres! Absolutely, absolutely. A little bit of a self-admission here. So we went into talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's actually not what I meant to do. I meant to keep talking football, but of the spring variety. That was a miss. I was looking over my notes, and a lot of the stuff
It was you take this thing and you put it here, you shuffle around, and
we shuffled it around a little bit, but that's fine.
You don't need to let everyone inside the kitchen know how the cooks work.
Just let us cook.
It could have been our secret.
That could have been our secret. That's fine.
Yeah.
But no, I do really want to talk some spring football. Let's get into that right now.
Overreacting so you don't have to. It's the Rad Sports Show UFL Power Rankings.
All right, the UFL Power Rankings right now, the United Football League. If you do not know about the UFL, I'd encourage you to watch it. I love the fact that spring football does a lot of innovation as far as trying new rules, i.e., once you get past the 50-yard line, even if you're sacked behind it, but once you reach the 50-yard line, there is no punting. I kind of hate that they got rid of the no going for an extra point. Well, I mean, I guess they do still have the option to do the 2 or 3 point play, so I guess that's a good middle ground. But anyway, if you haven't had a chance to check out the UFL, highly encourage you to do so. It's very entertaining football to kind of get you held over until the NFL and college starts back up. But I want to talk our power rankings here because we do have some differences. So these are our power rankings for the UFL right now, where we are the same. You and I both have the St. Louis Battlehawks and DC Defenders at number 1 and number 2, which I think will surprise a lot of people that we still don't, with the same record that we don't have DC at number 1. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that because DC lost to Louisville this past week, that's why you have DC at number 2 instead of number 1.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the one I'm shocked about was your Birmingham at number 3. I think last time I saw it, he was at 4. Maybe I'm misremembering that. But what do you got? What are you so hot about Birmingham for, man? They just beat who did they just beat? Was it Orlando?
They just beat Dallas. Well,
Dallas.
So they beat Orlando. I want to say the week before last. There was their second matchup against them this year, and they traded away wins. I think Orlando shut out Birmingham in Birmingham, and that was Matt Corral's last game as a Stallion. Before the Stallions traded Matt Corral to the Orlando Storm for Yeah, the Stallions traded Matt Corral to the Orlando Storm for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and I want to say they also picked up a defensive lineman from Orlando. And so now Dorian Thompson-Robinson with the Stallions has looked phenomenal. I mean, just as his first game, like their offense was instantly improved. Now, I do still think that their defense is kind of suspect, but every week it looks like Dorian Thompson-Robinson has gotten more and more comfortable in that offense, and he has definitely lit a very big spark for them. They were able to beat Orlando in their second matchup, and then Dallas, man, the downfall continues for the Dallas Renegades. They just beat them last week. But as of right now, I see Birmingham as a better team with Dorian Thompson-Robinson under center than I do the Orlando Storm.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not seeing them necessarily being better than I feel like Louisville just beat DC, who was like the best. Like until like this week, we agreed DC was the best, and if everyone else has DC as their number one, I think that's totally reasonable. The only thing the reason I'm looking at St. Louis is because Luis Perez has just looked like phenomenal. He already looks like he might be the best quarterback in the league right now, and I just don't see Louisville like dropping down to 5. And again, Birmingham just had like 2 back-to-back wins. I feel like Orlando is, I don't know, they're a top 3-ish, but they're just not. They remind me a lot of the Bears of just like last year. They just kept quietly winning, not having a lot of highlights, but then you just kind of look at the stats like, wait, are the Bears like 8-3 right now? What, like, that's weird. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, actually they are a playoff. And I think that just comes with like good coaching. Everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. But so yeah, Birmingham beat them, and then they beat Dallas, which I think now everyone knows Dallas is not a good team. Right. They were a flash in the pan, which is they're obviously the best team for the first 3 weeks, and they just fell off a rock. So yeah, Birmingham beat the shitty team. I don't know. I just feel like Birmingham still has to prove that they're better than Louisville, who just beat DC. So I don't know. That's where that's really the biggest difference we have. Everything else we're kind of lined up, I think, pretty well. But anyway, that's what I got for you.
Yeah. No, I mean, and to be honest with you, I could very easily see myself bringing Louisville up to that number 4 spot in my power rankings.
Yeah.
In fact, I almost did.
But Birmingham at number 3, though, even over. I mean, I know they beat Orlando, but that just seems like that's a huge friggin' jump for them. But I mean, you explained it though. I mean, that's you like the trades they made and all that.
I like what their offense looks like with DTR. Understand? And really, I could very easily see myself next week moving Louisville possibly up to number 3 and Birmingham down at number 4, or swapping Orlando and Louisville in my the bottom 3. I'm not sure. Dallas is on really like it's do or die time for them. Like you said, they started out the season hot. Austin Reed looked like the best quarterback in the league. He looked like, damn, okay. Like, when everybody was asking why Luis Perez was not the starter, Austin Reed was on absolute fire those first 3 weeks. And I will say, as far as Luis Perez goes, obviously I'm stoked that he's a Battlehawks fan, Battlehawk. As a Battlehawks fan, I'm glad that he's a Battlehawk. But
I forgot to plug in my battery or plug in my laptop. I was moving everything around, getting everything ready. We had the whole panic thing before we started, and the big low battery. And my low battery thing it goes off. You got like 20 seconds to hook it up before it goes off. Like, shit! So I run over there and plug in real quick. That's funny. Even now it's plugged in. I'm still kind of worried it might, pull more juice out than it gives. But anyway, I didn't hear anything you said in the last 20 seconds, but I'm sure it was fantastic.
No, all I was saying was that Austin Reed looked every bit of the reason why Dallas decided to start him over Luis Perez, which was a huge, like, what?
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. He is a known commodity. He's been one of the more consistent, better spring quarterbacks in years
Mr.
past.
Spring.
I want to say, Yeah, he's the spring king. I want to say he actually led the league in passing yards last year.
Yeah.
And I will say this much. I'm glad he's a Battlehawk as a Battlehawks fan. It did look like he had to shake some rust off, because he
did he though?
Yes.
I thought he looked.
No, 100%. He had now.
I think right away he looked like the best quarterback in the league.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with. I think late, as the game went on, he started to look more comfortable because you figure he's only been with St. Louis. He didn't go through any type of little, they usually go to like at least a few week camp before the season.
Yeah.
He didn't have any of that. He's only been with the team for a few weeks. Now, that being said, even with his, having to shake the rust off, for a few drives or, a quarter or whatever it was, he was still an instant upgrade over Harrison Frost, like instant upgrade over here, which the Battlehawks have a very, very good receiving core between Hakeem Butler and all those other cats there in St. Louis.
And I think Butler's the best wide receiver in the league, I think.
Oh, hands down. I think he does not have, I think, anywhere near the most receptions, but he has by a country mile, he has like the most yards per reception in the league.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this though, because you got Birmingham at 3. Where do you put the Aviators if they sweep Birmingham?
Ooh.
Because here's the thing, because if they lose to Columbus, that makes them look worse. So that win for Columbus doesn't look as good. You know what I mean?
That's tough. Honestly, that is really tough.
And if it wasn't, and I'm totally conceding that St. Louis won that game, being the better team, but it would have been a very, very close game if Columbus just didn't like commit like the most penalties ever in a spring game.
Well, yeah,
it was like 14 or 15 penalties. It was terrible.
There was a couple of plays that it looked like just the chemistry and the rhythm, with Luis Perez and some of the receivers was just even with Hakeem Butler. Like there's a few plays where like you can tell like they were like, yeah, no, you're right. I should have zigged instead of zagged, But I think that going forward, St. Louis is going to be a super dangerous team with Luis Perez. That being said, the Columbus Aviators, man, they are so hot and cold, with Ted Ginn as their head coach. And I'll be honest, I'm not even really sure that I'm a big believer in Todd Haley whatsoever.
Well, I think Todd Haley's the head coach. I have you ever seen Ted Ginn like opening his mouth at all on the sideline? He stands there and kind of looks around, and Haley is the one running up, barking at the officials, talking to all the players, and then Ted Ginn just kind of stands there and is like, guys, remember I played for Ohio State.
I don't know.
Ted Ginn, everybody.
I don't know that Ted Ginn's ever even been a coach before.
Ted Ginn. No, nothing. He's never done anything. He's never done this before.
I know Todd Haley at least has, it's not great, but he has coaching experience at the NFL level, so.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm not a big believer in his, and he's the better of the two coaches, so. And then, of course, the Houston Gamblers there at the bottom, man, it's
nobody.
Sad because I think talent-wise, they have arguably the number 2. Now, you wouldn't know it if you only watched him this season, but I think talent-wise, they have the number 2 receiver in the league in Jontre Kirkland, who was with the San Antonio Brahmas, I want to say for at least a couple of years. He was a headache. He was an absolute menace with the Brahmas, and I just feel so bad for him. So, but I mean, he got to stay in Texas. I'm not sure how long Houston keeps the Gamblers past this season, but
I honestly, if I'm being honest, I don't want him to stay in Houston. Even Dallas, I'll be honest, I'm kind of the lack of fan. And they always report the fans in Houston and Dallas being like, oh yeah, they had like 5,000 people, and it's total bullshit. I don't know if they're just going by tickets sailed or whatever, however they're getting their number in there. It's not true. I don't know how they're getting that number. You look at any home Houston games, I would be a little shocked if there were 50 people there. And I don't know how you screw up on the marketing so bad there. And I hear, like, I'll look at the Reddit threads and stuff on the games, and always hear from Houston and Orlando where it's like, oh, well, none of the fans here are going to go to a game until they actually prove that they're going to stick around or anything. It's like, well, they're not going to stick around if you don't show up. So I would totally be fine with any of those, like the Texas teams moving. Sorry, guys. If you're one of those fans, go to the game.
Yeah, well, and I think that Dallas could be good. Like when they were at what is now Choctaw Stadium, where the Rangers used to play, they did okay. I don't like that they moved the team to Frisco, at a soccer stadium that is currently still under construction. That's not a great look, so I think if they move closer to Arlington, that could possibly work, but I don't know. Really, I don't know. It's tough.
It comes down to next year, because I think it's really interesting that Rapoli is already announced Rapoli. I've been saying it wrong this whole time. I read his name and never hear it out loud. That he's already announced that Oklahoma City is getting a team not this year, or excuse me, not next year, but the year after. And he's talked about all the setup and everything for the season next year. They want to start way earlier. They want to get the teams all together much, much earlier. So,
which I think is good. I think they should start right after the Super Bowl.
And that's what it sounds like
he used to do back in the day.
And I think that's what he's maybe talking about doing. So I think, I kind of feel like maybe this first season with Rapoli was just to kind of just get in there. We already got the kind of league set up. They got, couple, two new teams that are or three new teams, that came into the league. They kind of rushed them in there, and I think the real hard start is actually going to be next year, I think. So maybe that will change. They'll get Houston figured out. They'll start marketing St. Louis, because I know St. Louis fans are kind of complaining that they're not marketing St. Louis. Every time I turn on YouTube, I see ads for the Aviators. So and I've been to 2 games, and they've had a really good crowd there for at least the size of that. So. But like any other sport, I think if you're not watching the UFL, it just takes a little bit to kind of understand. I think the drama. Like if the DC is kind of the big hulking winning team right now, and then you kind of see these up and comers. You kind of know the storyline a little bit. That Louisville is a new team, and they might be one of the few new teams that's actually going to be a competitor. And Birmingham was this team from the USFL, and they were the top dog for a while. Now maybe they're taking a step back. It just kind of it takes the season to kind of follow the storyline a little bit, and that's really what gets into it. Otherwise, it's just like watching the Demolition Derby or Monster Trucks, where it's just you're just there for the action, and it takes a little bit to get into it. So go watch the UFL.
Go watch the UFL indeed. Well, tomorrow on Netflix, the very first live MMA card on Netflix. Let's talk about it.
Saturday Night Violence is here.
Combo breaker!
Flawless victory.
Welcome to the Rad Sports Show's Cage Side Chaos.
Tomorrow, May 16th, 2026 at 8 p.m. I'm not sure if that's local time or Eastern time, but at the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, California, Most Valuable Promotions is putting on an MMA card, the first of its kind ever, live on Netflix. So this is Jake Paul's promotion. And to be honest with you, I know that there's a lot of mixed feelings out there. I'm actually super excited about this card. I'm more excited about this card, and we can get into this other part, here in a little bit. But I'm more excited about this card than I am the UFC White House card. A lot of it, I will be 100% honest. I'm not even arguing that it's going to be a great fight in the main event, but it's definitely a nostalgia thing for me. You have Ronda Rousey, former UFC bantamweight champion, former Olympic judoka medalist, versus Gina Carano, who a lot of older MMA fans, will say that she walked so that Ronda could run. And then Keith says, off topic, Juan Soto just based Albert Pujols for the fastest person to 250 home runs for his career. Wow, that's insane. That's insane.
Okay.
Juan Soto is a beast.
Yeah, baseball's going on right now. How about that?
Yeah, baseball. Baseball. Guys.
Yeah, baseball. Right.
Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of time to talk about that, but we can definitely get into some baseball next week.
Next year, yeah. Next week. Yeah, next week. We'll see you guys next year. Yeah, so going down the card, and I'll say this. I think talent-wise, the UFC and the 250 at the White House, I really think is going to be the more, like, talented, like, fights. I think you might even see more action. I really hope that these fights are exciting, and it really all is going off of name brand. And we're all going to watch these fights the same reason that we watched Mike Tyson, because it's like we haven't seen Ronda Rousey fight in forever, and we're excited about that. Nate Diaz is fighting. We're excited about that. The one guy that I think is going to be a little more actually.
Thank you for clarifying. It is 9 p.m. Eastern time, so that would be 6 p.m. on the West Coast where the fight's actually happening. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the one big name fighter I think is actually going to be really, really exciting to watch is Francis Nogueira, and he's fighting Felipe Lins.
That would be impressive if the Nogueira brothers had a third brother, but I think you're talking about Francis Ngannou.
I'm sorry. Yes.
It's all good. It's all good.
Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, no, I actually met the
Nogueira brothers once.
Did you?
I did. I was a bouncer at a club in Seattle, and all the fighters, Anderson Silva and a bunch of other guys came in, and Little Nog had just fought, and he was super cool. He was just, if you kind of make eye contact with him from across the club, he was just kind of like, and then you just kind of like wander over to you like, hey, how's it going? Good to meet you. Like he came up to, and he just lost the fight. I didn't want to bother him, but he just ran up and was like, hey, good to meet you and everything. And so I was like, oh my God, dude, you're so cool. So yeah, that was my Little Nog story. She's muscly though.
No, she was not. She got.
Oh, she wasn't?
She got fat. She got fat.
Oh no, is this like the Mandalorian? Like when she was big?
Well,
really?
I think she's. I don't think she was quite that heavy back then. But no, and I shouldn't say it like that. But she was not in shape for a good while there, and then she gives a lot of credit to Ronda Rousey, like kind of using this fight as a goal for her. And that's, kind of what she used as her inspiration, to get back in shape and, become an athlete again. And I'll tell you what, Gina Carano looks fantastic. She looks like she is in incredible shape. I believe she weighed in today at 141 pounds, and Ronda weighed in, I believe, at 142. So, which is unusual for Ronda. Ronda always fought at bantamweight at 135. Gina, when she was still an active fighter, was in that featherweight, 140 to 145 pound class. So, it kind of. Sorry,
isn't it a catch weight? Because isn't featherweight like 145?
Yeah, I guess in that regard it would be a catch weight. They're labeling it on the most valuable promotions site. The people that are putting on this fight. They're labeling it as a featherweight bout.
Okay.
So
I don't know. Maybe they got different. It's their own league. They can dictate what weight is what.
Sure. But
so
anyway,
quickly.
Sorry.
I was going to say before we go on to any other fighters, I wanted to see who you have winning this fight.
You know what? I'm rooting for Gina Carano just because, again, she was one of my favorite fighters back in the day, like early day. Mind you, the last time she fought was like I think either my senior year of high school or just after I graduated high school, rather. August. Okay, so this is just the summer after I graduated high school was her last fight. But I loved watching Gina Carano fight. I thought that her last fight against Chris Cyborg, they stopped it with 1 second left in the first round, which I kind of thought was bullshit. But who do I think? I think Ronda will win the fight. Unfortunately, she's younger. She's been the more active of the two. Now, I know Gina has been working like absolute crazy to get in shape. And if you watch any of the promotion or, the promoting that MVP has been putting on, Gina looks like she's in incredible shape. But Ronda has been more active with wrestling, and mind you, she hasn't fought in MMA the last time being in the UFC in 10 years, but that's certainly more recent than 17 years ago, like Gina did. So
and judo. The way I agree with you. I feel like the judo and jiu-jitsu, that style of fighting lasts much longer in your years than boxing does. And I know Gina's a fantastic boxer. I know that's kind of the Achilles heel of Ronda Rousey, but I just think like the age, and she's been in shape for longer. I think Ronda Rousey's going to win it in the first round, unless it's a Logan Paul, Mike Tyson. We're just going to spar and do a pillow fight, and be friends and hug afterwards and be lame.
And that's kind of what I'm worried about too, because they have kind of been giving each other nothing but flowers, this entire fight. There really has not been a ton of trash talk. Hey, do us a favor while we're talking about this card. Who do you think wins the main event tomorrow? Type 1 for 1 for Ronda Rousey, 2 for Gina Carano. We'll track the poll live right there as it goes on, and we'll see who finishes out at the top there at the end of the show. So we both have Ronda Rousey winning. I'm rooting for Gina. Are you rooting for? Who are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for Gina. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't stand Ronda Rousey. I've always thought she was. It's personality. I just think she's a brat, and I'd love it if Gina just has my heart. So like, come on, baby, I want you to win so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so for the main, and then the other fights on the main card, real quick, you already talked about Francis Ngannou versus Felipe Lins. Yeah. I'm not super familiar with Felipe Lins. I'll be honest with you. He has a record of 18-5-0 versus Francis Ngannou's 18-3-0. And I'm not sure how accurate this is, but just looking at their page, because I know they did, the reason I say Gina and Ronda did their weigh-ins earlier, and Ronda weighed in, I want to say at 142, but it still lists her as 135 on here. The MVP website has Francis Ngannou at 50 pounds heavier than this guy. So I'd be curious to go in and see. They've got Francis Ngannou at 256 and Lins at 206. So I'd be curious to see what the actual weigh-in results were for that fight. But I think
Ngannou is still an active fighter, though. That's why I'm kind of, out of all the big names that are going to be on this card, I feel like he's got the best chance of kicking ass. But I don't know. This guy who's fighting Lins, like I said, I don't know who he is either. So maybe
I don't know a ton about him. Yeah, really, I mean, it's been a couple of years. So Francis Ngannou last fought in PFL to win their super heavyweight their super fights heavyweight championship in October of 2024 versus Renan Ferreira. And then before that, it was Cyril Gane in his last fight in the UFC to defend the heavyweight champ. So, I mean, it's been a while. It's been a couple of years, not quite. It's been about a year and a half for Francis Ngannou since the last time he fought.
Yeah.
But then his opponent here, Felipe Lins, he actually fought at UFC 299 in March of 2024. So it's been, year and a half, 2 years for both of these guys. So I'm not sure. I mean, I'm excited to watch. I'm always excited to watch Francis Ngannou fight.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to watch him fight regardless. And then you have in the next fight on the main card. This might be outside of the Ronda and Gina fight. This is probably the fight I'm most excited about. You have Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry, another 5-round welterweight bout. Now I know these guys are getting a little bit longer in the tooth, but I will tell you this, and they've been super cool with each other throughout this whole process, but I will tell you this, that fight is not going the distance. Like, that fight is not
I think it is
going. I don't.
Nate Diaz, I think it is. Nate Diaz is a marathon fighter. I think he's got such an interesting, bizarre, boxing style. So there's something with Nate Diaz. Nick Diaz was the same way too, and he's got these big looping things. I don't even remember. Chuck Liddell did the same thing. He had his arms out, kind of like this. They're kind of like a really loose guard, and he punches with about 30 or 40% throughout the fight. So he never like punches for knockouts, and I'm sure he's got a few knockouts, but he's always a marathon fighter. So I think if he wins, he's going to win by decision, like going the distance, and because he keeps the exact same pace. He just keeps going and going. Oh, and he's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So if it does go to the ground, then he is like completely fine. But he's a boxer first. So it's just crazy to me that like if it does go to the ground, it's like, oh well, I'm a shark in deep waters now. So come get me. So, but I think I think it's going to be a decision for Nate Diaz.
That's fair. Yeah, I would take Nate Diaz in that fight as well. I mean, I guess now that the more you talk about it, I could see it going the distance. I can also see him submitting Mike Perry.
But it also depends on how shape he is, because he lost to Logan Paul, and I think he was, if I remember, I think he was pretty fat.
Did he
during
fight
that time.
Logan Paul?
I think he lost to Logan Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, but and I know we're kind of gassing up another Paul brother event, but I got to be honest with you. What? Are we sure? Did he fight Logan Paul?
Unless it was Jake Paul.
I mean, did he fight a Paul brother?
Yes. Hold on a second.
Am I tripping?
Nate Diaz versus Logan Paul.
Oh, you're right. No, he fought Jake Paul. He fought Jake Paul.
Oh, it was Jake Paul.
Yeah, in 2023, and then he.
Okay.
Yeah, he fought Jake Paul.
Okay, it was Jake Paul. Okay,
But
I also get the balls mixed up.
Yeah, the Paul brother fights. I got to be honest. I don't really take them seriously. Although I know Jake Paul's is talking about not ever boxing again after getting his jaw completely jacked his last fight.
Yeah,
so,
I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah, so I don't know. But anyway, that aside, I've got Nate Diaz taking that fight. We've got some other fights on the card. Some guys I'm really not familiar with. The only other name that I am somewhat familiar. Sorry, go ahead.
Let me try something. Can you take off? I know I'm supposed to be doing this on our notes thing, but I'm just going to talk to you around. Can you move the poll off the screen? I think we can put the that picture that you're trying to get on with the different card, like the fight cards.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can try that. Let's see here. No, it's not.
It's still not letting us.
No.
Okay. Sorry for interrupting. Continue.
All good. Yeah, the only other big name that I recognize on this card is Junior Dos Santos is fighting a guy named Robles Despain.
Junior Dos Santos, I forgot about him.
But man, he was
in prison, wasn't he, for murdering someone?
That was no.
Or was that Cain Velasquez?
That was Cain Velasquez.
I always get those guys mixed up. They were both champion around the same time. Okay.
I think he was the champ after Cain, but
I
don't.
Yeah, Junior. Same thing. Junior hasn't fought. I don't think he's fought in a long time, but
he last fought at Game Bred. So the Jorge Masvidal's Game Bred Bare Knuckle MMA back in March of 2024, and won their inaugural heavyweight championship against Alan Belcher. So that's the only other big name that I recognize. But I will say, at least if for nothing else than nostalgia factor alone, I'm super stoked about this card. I do not contend in any way, shape, or form that it's going to be a great fight, because again, I don't know. There's been, a lot of showmanship of, I'm gonna kick her ass. Like, of course, I'll beat Ronda's ass, or of course I'll destroy Gina, and but in that same breath, like every time you see the two in the same room, like they're giving each other hugs, and this, that, and the third, and one hasn't fought in a decade, the other hasn't fought in nearly 2 decades. So
I will say sometimes, I would say, like, I've watched a bunch of like amateur MMA. Like MMA was like my martial arts was my background. I did Taekwondo for 8 years, then I did jiu-jitsu for years and years after that, and I trained in MMA and all that stuff. So this is like my sport, like growing up. Right. But when you're watching amateur, if you don't, it's when you're watching them at the same level, it can still be entertaining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the UFL, honestly. Like, I understand that they're not as talented as the guys in the NFL, but same with like college. You know, those guys are not. You know, the grand majority of people who play college football are not as talented as the NFL. But when they're competing at the same level, it's entertaining as shit. So I'm hoping that this is what this is, and not just, hey, we're getting a paycheck. Let's not hurt each other. Let's just, just get through it. We get the money, and just everyone remember Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, and we'll get out of here and spend our money. So I'm hoping that's not what it is. I hope they go out there and they try and knock each other's heads off.
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. But yeah, well, anyway, I'm excited for the fights. Thanks for tuning into the show tonight, everybody. We're hoping that we can get enough subscribers on Facebook to air there as well. Then I'm going to try to figure out getting the show onto Spotify here within the next couple of weeks as well. So be sure to tune in. Next week, we'll have another great show lined up for you. Come in and talk some sports. And if you could, again, if you like the show tonight, do us a favor. Follow us. Give us a like. Give us a follow on both Facebook, and obviously subscribe to us on YouTube. And really just overall, once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we're able to get up onto Facebook here pretty soon, as well as Spotify. But until next time, I've been Rick Horn. This has been Danny Gilmore, and this has been the Rad Sports Show. Any parting thoughts before we close it out, Danny?
Nope. I'm happy to be here. Had lots of fun.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for watching.